Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Millennial Revolt, an independent political talk show that seeks to bring a different narrative than the stale one we have going on right now in the mainstream media. So today we're going to be talking about the protests that have erupted all throughout the country in many of the major cities because of the election of Donald Trump, and why I do not support these protests, why I think they are complete bullshit. So let's just get right into this video because there's so much to discuss. So it seems as if there is a collective triggering of many leftists across the United States protesting the election results of Donald Trump. Now, I find this to be completely idiotic, and I find it to be completely hypocritical, what many of these people are doing. We've also witnessed some cases of violence. I know there is a video floating around on Twitter of black people assaulting a white man because he voted for Donald Trump, and people justifying it because they're saying, well, white people assault people of color all the time. It's completely nonsensical. We see acts of vandalism, cars being burned, windows being broken. What you see playing out across your television screens are Hillary supporters, and I do believe that it is a small minority of Hillary supporters, though they are very vocal, who are protesting the results because they don't like what has happened. And what you see is playing out on college campuses. You see it playing out across the major cities, and most of these protests are taking place around Trump Towers. Now, I don't want anyone to misunderstand me here, that if Trump would have lost, do I think his supporters would be protesting across the country? Yes, I do believe they would have been protesting across the country, and I do believe that many people would have also rejected the election results on his side. Now, what's happening now reminds me of what happened back in 2012 when President Obama was reelected to the office, and many of Mitt Romney's supporters, Karl Rove famously having a breakdown on Fox News, claiming this is not my president, we should not be quick to call the results, and it was just pure nonsense playing out on your television screen. And I think what's happening now kind of equates to that. It's basically the same thing. People calling Trump a racist, a bigot, a sexist, a homophobe, and they're calling his win illegitimate because they won't accept him as their president. A lot of the people protesting are saying that we need to abolish the Electoral College, and because Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, she should be president. Now, keep in mind, she only won the popular vote by a point something percentage. It was extremely tiny. And a lot of these people who are protesting fail to understand why we have the Electoral College to begin with. And even though I do have my issues with the Electoral College, it's necessary. Now, the Electoral College is there to protect many of these rural states, many of these small, less densely populated areas, because it allows them to have a voice in our elections. Otherwise, these rural areas wouldn't be able to compete with the larger cities, mainly because of population size and it's more densely packed. So it is necessary. Yes, it's a double-edged sword, but that's what happens in a democracy. I'm also reminded of the fact that many of the television pundits and hack journalists on TV were saying that Trump fans would come out and protest and damn near riot because of the divisive campaign that Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump have run in this election, and the hate mongering that Donald Trump has spread throughout the United States. Now, what you have here is a situation of people who were listening to the NPRs, who were listening to the CNNs, who were listening to the MSNBCs, who truly believed that Hillary Clinton had this election in the bag and she was going to run away with it. Now, as I said in my previous video, anyone who was staring at this election objectively, I didn't have a horse in this race. My candidate was gone. I voted for Bernie Sanders. He was cheated by the DNC, and I said I was voting for Jill Stein. But again, anyone who was staring at this objectively could have told you that Donald Trump was going to win. Just basically looking at the mood of the country, the way people were upset, the backlash against the establishment that was happening throughout the country, and the populist mode that was bubbling up. Anyone could have told you that Donald Trump was going to win. So many of these people suffered an election night shock when they found out that these political pundits have been lying to them for a year and a half about the chances of Hillary Clinton. What upsets me and infuriates me so much is the hypocrisy of many people on the left, who, when people really need them to come out and protest the basic blatant violations that are happening throughout the 8 years of the Obama presidency, silence, nowhere to be found. Donald Trump hasn't even taken the oath of office, and for one day, after his election, you have hundreds of thousands of people take to the streets. And it astounds me. Where were any of these people protesting the fact that President Obama had expanded the George Bush drone program? Where were anybody who was protesting the fact that President Obama signed the DART Act into law? Where was anybody protesting the fact that we are currently bombing 7 countries overseas? Where was anybody protesting the fact that we gave $1 billion worth of arms to Saudi Arabia, which is a known human rights violator, which is currently bombing and starving the people of Yemen? Where was anybody protesting the fact that we were arming terrorists in Syria? Where was people protesting the fact that under President Obama, more people have been deported by him than any other president in history? Where were people protesting the DAPL pipeline? Where were people when President Obama recently signed for 2 more pipelines to be built? Where were any of these people? People are so quick to accept all of these betrayals, and not to mention the biggest betrayal to the American worker, the TPP, which President Obama is trying to fast track now that we are in a lame duck session in Congress. Where are all of these people? Nowhere to be found. Because people don't care. People don't care because it's happening under a Democratic president, so people can feel good about themselves. So people can say, oh no, that's okay. I'm willing to accept it under a Democrat, but I'm not going to accept all of these things because it's a Republican. It's this partisan politics that is annoying to me. It's so annoying. Because when we really need people to come out and protest, to make their voices heard, there's no one's nowhere to be found. People are too busy worried about the fucking Kardashians, that Kim Kardashian got robbed or some stupid shit, other than what's actually happening in our country today. People are complaining that Donald Trump and Mike Pence are going to take away marriage equality and are going to take away a woman's right to choose. They are going to repeal Roe v. Wade. Well, this is the same bullshit that people were screaming under George Bush, and 16 years later, Roe v. Wade is still in place and women can still have their abortions. So please spare me with all that nonsense that women are going to be thrown back 50 years if Donald Trump gets elected. It's the same partisan bullshit that people were screaming under the Bush administration. People were protesting in the streets against the wars during the Bush administration, but are conveniently silent now that we are destabilizing multiple countries in the Middle East and arming terrorists. It's really crazy to me. It's really lunacy what's being played out throughout the country. So what a lot of the protesters who are marching through the streets are complaining about is they say that Donald Trump is going to get rid of marriage equality and Donald Trump is going to ban all Muslims. Now, as far as marriage equality goes, Donald Trump has been a pro-LGBT candidate throughout this whole race. And if you look at his record before he even took public office, he was for marriage equality. Hell, he was a Democrat for 20 plus years living in one of the most liberal cities in the world, New York. So I'm not particularly worried about marriage equality being taken away. People are saying, well, he has Mike Pence as his VP. Well, Mike Pence isn't president. Donald Trump is. And I highly doubt that even if Mike Pence makes a stink about it, that Donald Trump is going to let Mike Pence walk all over him. He doesn't look like that type of guy. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is the Muslim ban that many people are saying that they are afraid of. What I think was very misconstrued, and this was part of the propagandist media, is Donald Trump said he wants to put a halt of people coming in from countries where there is terrorist activity. And given the fact that we have a horrible vetting process in this country, I can understand why that is a concern for him and his administration. And the fact that people on the left are being hypocrites about this particular issue is the reason why we can never talk openly and honestly about terrorism in this country. The fact of the matter is, you're not going to see mass deportations, and you're not going to see people being rounded up. First of all, we have constitutional rights that protect us, and second of all, I don't think that is one of the main priorities of Donald Trump's first 100 days in office. I think one of the main things he was talking about was building infrastructure, which we desperately need. These goddamn bridges are falling apart, our roads are getting more horrible. So I think people need to take a look outside of the rhetoric and look at what he does before we make any judgments. The people who are saying that Donald Trump is a Nazi and everybody's going to be rounded up and put into camps doesn't understand the basic function of government, how our three branches of government work together, doesn't understand how politics work, and this is what happens when you have an educational system that has been dumbed down to this point. Now, yes, what Donald Trump has said has been inappropriate at times. I'm not going to defend that. But the fact of the matter is, we have to wait and see what he does and then judge him on what he is doing, not what he says, what he does while he is president. Some of the protesters don't seem to understand that we have separations of powers, that we have checks and balances in this country. And one of the most important things that people don't seem to understand is we are not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. And the republic has spoken. A majority of people have voted for Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton has conceded. Now, you may not like the results of the election, but this is what has happened. Donald Trump has won. Now, it is our job as a country to move forward. We have to be willing to work with his supporters and hope for the best for his administration. Like adults, we put on our big pants and we move forward. And just on a side note before I wrap up this video, because I think one of the most important things is you need to place blame where blame is due. If you wanted a candidate who could have beaten Donald Trump, which I think Bernie Sanders could have, then instead of the DNC cheating him, they should have let him win the primaries and he would have beaten him. If you looked at any of the polls, consistently he polled higher than Donald Trump by 15 points. Okay, but putting that aside, Hillary Clinton was a weak candidate. She was a horrible candidate. She didn't inspire anyone to come out and vote for her. The only message that she kept pushing throughout the entire campaign trail was that she was better than Donald Trump because Donald Trump was inexperienced. Hillary Clinton helped destabilize Libya, one of the most prosperous nations in Africa and one of the most richest, until she came in saying we were bringing freedom. She famously laughed on television, quite coldly, mind you. We came, we saw, he died. Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party were red scaring on national television, and Hillary Clinton decided it would be a good idea to try to saber rattle with Russia, mind you, which is a nuclear powered country. People didn't vote for that. People didn't want to vote for a 2.0 Cold War that she was trying to engage in. People didn't want to vote for the neocon. People didn't want to vote for the TPP. People didn't want to vote for these things. People didn't want to vote for a candidate who was under FBI and federal investigation. People didn't want to vote for a candidate whose foundation was currently under investigation. People didn't want to vote for that. So instead of people getting mad at everyone else who decided that they didn't want to vote, or instead of people getting mad because white people decided that they want to come out in larger numbers and vote for a candidate who they believed is actually good and it had nothing to do with racism, why don't you get mad at the fact that Hillary Clinton was a terrible candidate, and next time do a little self-fucking searching and say that maybe if I want to win an election, I have to inspire people to come out and vote for me. It's frustrating what's happening. I understand why people are upset. I get it. But the results are in. Donald Trump has won. We need to move forward. I'm the Millennial Revolt. Thank you so much for watching, and you have a wonderful day. Bye.